Hello and welcome to the Great Answer podcast. My name is Gray Miller. I have been teaching, performing, and advocating for kink and sexuality and education for over a decade now as Great Answer. And that was because I needed a nom de plume. I was at risk of losing things like jobs and custody of my kids and stuff like that if I was out as being kinky. I have gotten past that point now. My kids are all grown up. They can deal with their own custody. And I am lucky enough to be self-employed, so I can't be fired for being kinky. And in fact, I tend to do a lot of work for kinky clients and things like that, as well as other regular clients, as if we're not regular. Anyway, the whole point of this is to just let you know, in case you're listening to this for the very first time, that this is a podcast that's going to be about adult subjects like self-identity and being nice to each other and communication and relationships. Oh, and we will also talk about the fact that we all have bodies and we all like to do things with them, and we will be very blatant and out about how that works. So if you're not comfortable hearing about these things, or if by some chance you happen to live somewhere where talking about these things can be illegal, you should move. Other than that, I'm also going to say that if you are underage, and by underage I mean under the age of 18, which in this country anyway, the United States, is the age of adulthood, you should go to some place like scarleteen.com. It's SCARLETEEN, where Heather Corinna and her merry band of misfits do a great job of giving great information that is designed specifically for people like that. This is an adult podcast, however, talking about adult things. So if you're not an adult, then you should stop listening. Like that's going to work. Okay, this podcast also is sponsored by a fantastic person who loves to torture me, and not in the nice ways. His name, of course, is Twisted Monk, and you can find his rope and other accessories and things like that at twistedmonk.com. And the reason I say he likes to torture me is because he comes out every month with a color of the month. And this particular month, his color of the month is modeled after coal. It is like the kind of coal you have in your stocking. And oh my God, it is a beautiful, beautiful thing. I should read the actual name of it. Should have had this ready, but I'm actually using my standing desk for this podcast, which means that my computer is actually way across the room. So let's see if I can find the color of the month for this month. And look at that, I'm not finding it. His website, of course, is twistedmonk.com, and he's been, frankly, a sponsor of this particular podcast for a very long time, whether actively or even just behind the scenes. Yes, November's color of the month was Tannenbaum, but the color of the month for this month, it's not listed on the website yet. That's interesting. Maybe it's already sold out. Anyway, it was a good color, and it was gray, which of course makes me, want it more and more, but I can't afford to buy more rope all the time. And why can't I afford it? Because I mentioned that whole self-employed thing, right? Which means if you would like to also help out in terms of the cost of this podcast, you can always visit our Patreon, which is at patreon.com/greatanswer. And another thing for my patrons who are wondering where the hell this podcast has been, we have been having all kinds of problems since we changed the name. And it's really kind of sad. But I think maybe, we have finally gotten to the point where we can get the kind of things that we need to in terms of iTunes. Maybe have that solved. I don't know. It's still in review. But that's why this podcast has been hard to find, and you can help that out by just sharing the podcast identity, which is greatanswer.libsyn.com or feeds.feedburner.com/greatanswercast. That's a harder one to say. Pretty soon you'll just be able to go to podcast.greatanswer.com, but that's not quite there yet. So the name of the gray rope, I did actually find it, is Naughty List. Inspired by the traditional gift of a lump of coal, mid-toned gray with hints of holiday berries and mistletoe. Yeah, really pretty fun. You can go to ropecast.com and actually click on the color of the month. It's on the side there if you want to get a hold of that. If there's any left, I'd be surprised. So, meanwhile, let's actually talk about sex. I don't have an interview today, so we're not going to be talking with anyone today, although I have several interviews I have planned, possibly even with people like Hugo-nominated authors and also with some professional porn stars. We're working on various things like that. But today, I actually wanted to talk a little bit about a class that I give, and the class is called Receiving Blowjobs Gracefully. Now, this class actually came about from at the Los Angeles GRUE, the very first one, I believe, too. By the way, we're about to have the 6th one in January. You can find out more about that at lagru.bpt.me. But the class, we started hearing some stories from people about how they had horrible experiences with their first blowjobs. Usually, they're women talking about how they had negotiated beforehand and told their partner, hey, I'd like to, I'll do this, but I don't have my mouth. And when the money shot came, the person held their head there and came to the mouth, or came on somewhere that they wanted to come. Or they had somebody who had a partner who just laid there and didn't really respond. She kind of let the person had really enjoyed it, but hadn't bothered to tell her because they didn't know how to communicate. I personally have had a lot of irritation when I will read magazines that talk about blowjobs and they'll imply that the man or the person having penis and receiving the blowjob should just lay there and be happy that they're getting it in the first place. They just have to lay back and, I guess, think of England or something. That's not my experience. That was not my experience with blowjobs. My experience with blowjobs was there was a lot more activity and a lot more interaction involved. So we actually developed this class called Receiving Blowjobs Gracefully, and it's interesting in that the people who have been most skeptical about this class have been other sex educators. And I don't really understand why. I guess it's just this idea that, well, they have no problem with the idea of getting a class on how to give a blowjob. The idea that the other person might want to have some education about things is very interesting. I heard once, I can see my daughter, who's still a fantastic educator, not to be reflected on her, but she and I were talking at an event, and I mentioned I just finished teaching a cover with class, and she snorted and said, oh, well, that must have been horrible. You seem to think that this class is something where I just want to get a blowjob in public. Right as she and I were talking, and I was sort of launching into my sort of defense of things, this guy comes up and he goes, great answer, I just wanted to thank you for doing that class on receiving blowjobs gracefully. My mistress said it was really great, and it's going to help us out so much, thank you so much. And then he left, and Tina kind of looked at me and said, well, okay, maybe it's a class after all. So I have to say, it is a worthwhile class, and that's why I'm going to talk about it in this podcast. So the first part about this is, we talk about negotiation. I'm not going to go the entire class, even the Cliff Notes version. The first thing is that we'll talk about negotiation, and one part of that is sort of here's the different points at which a person giving a blowjob can change their mind about sucking your cock. And this is a good guide for men, or for people who possess a penis. Here's the points at which the person can say no. They can say no the first time that sex is mentioned at all. They can say no while you are kissing each other. They can say no while they are groping you through your jeans or pants or whatever. They can say no when they are unzipping and freeing your cock in all its rampant glory. They can say no when you're rock hard and throbbing. Now, of course, people like to be giving as good as they get, so after you have fingered or stroked or licked your partner's orgasm, they can still say no to the blowjob. Guess what? When their face is right a centimeter away from your cock, they can still say, nope, no blowjob. When their lips are touching the glands, they can still say, nope, don't want to do that. When their hands are fondling and stroking, and perhaps even they are licking your balls, they can suddenly decide no. They can take you all the way down their throat, and then take you out again and say, nope, don't want to do this. When you are just about to blow your load, you are about to have an orgasm, oh my God, you're about to spurt, they can stop and say, no, they don't want to do this anymore. You can be cleaning the cum off of wherever it went, and they can decide, oh, I don't ever want to do this again. In short, there is no point when you get to say, hey, wait a minute, I need a blowjob now. You don't get to do that. You can always say no. Now, if you think, though, that the odds are that you might be having a blowjob, that there's this thing called the condom rule, which is that it's better to have it and not need it than it is to need it and not have it. So if there is even the slightest chance of having that, I would recommend that you take some time and maybe figure out, what is that you are going to do. Like maybe wear some nice jeans that have an easy way to get them unfastened. Maybe pay attention to your underwear. I happen to subscribe to meundies.com, and you can find a link on ropecast.com to what I use in the show notes. And it'll give you actually, I think, a discount off of your first order. Tell you why I order those? Simply because they make your package look fantastic. They also feel good. There's a wide variety of things. You can even have matching undies with your partner. This suddenly sounded like an advertisement. But here's the thing. Put some thought into what you are wearing. Maybe even you're going commando. That could be a reason. When you do get your jeans undone, especially if you're using jeans, let me give you a little pointer. You can take and fold in, like if you think about unzipping the jeans, unbuttoning them, you have this little V caused by the zipper. Take the edge of that V and roll it under towards your body. That will keep them from getting little imprints from the zipper on their cheeks or jabbing themselves in the chin or the forehead with the tip of the zipper. You can also reach down and use the underwear and cup it and bring it out underneath so your balls are pulled up and pulled out along with your cock. This does a whole lot of different good things. It provides some pressure around the base, which can help you maintain an erection. It can also feel better. If the person is into the idea of deep throating but maybe can't quite handle the stress of doing it, well, what you can do is you can push The balls being up there means that they can get further down, and it feels like a deep throat because the balls are hitting their chin or whatever, but at the same time, they're not having it as deep. Now, you may have a tendency to want to do something like put on some Axe body spray or, oh my God, I have to shave myself. Here's the thing. I have been shaved. I have been waxed. I have no problem with doing that kind of personal grooming. I've asked my partners what they prefer. They prefer that I have hair down there. That's what they want. Now, since I don't really care either way, I'm happy to just leave it there. But the first person who gets to choose is you, and the second person who gets to choose is them. But it's worthwhile to find out. And, you could always be like, hey, I heard you, if you find out that they like hairless and you have hair, well, you could always say, well, you know what? I happen to have a lot of hair, but I'll keep that in mind for the future. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Okay? Now, one of the best things you can do in order to receive blowjob gracefully is to help hold their hair back. Okay? Now, there is actually a method to this. I'm going to have to describe it. I can normally show it in a class, but I'm going to describe it instead. What you want to do is, and this is for someone who has hair that is falling in their face, and it's pretty much the same regardless until a certain point. And I'll tell you when that point comes. So the first step is to get the hair from out of the front of their face. And what you want to think about is think about a little dot right up at their hairline at the top of their forehead. And you take your fingers and you poke them right there. Just hold your now. You can be a little more graceful, but that's what you want to think about. Think about touching the spot right at the hairline at the center of their forehead. And then if the hair is dangling in their face, just pull your fingertips apart, running along the hairline, pulling all the hair back and around. Okay, now this works fine with, braids, with dreadlocks, with fine hair, with curly hair, everything like that. Now, as you pull it down along the hairline, you get by the ears, scoop it around from behind the ears too, and you'll be gradually bunching it around towards the back of their head. And here's where it changes. If you are with someone who is wearing a weave, you don't want to grab hard then and pull. You don't want to grab hard and pull anyway, but you want to be a little gentle with how you're going to hold it. Same thing with dreads. Believe it or not, dreads can break off. Seen it happen. You also want to be a little more careful with the fact that, frankly, they might be wearing a wig. You never know. Well, you might know, but it is definitely a possibility. So be a little careful. And here's the way to tell if someone wants their hair pulled. Because it's funny. You'll read in things saying, never pull their hair. And then you'll talk to people and they'll say, well, I really wanted him to pull my hair. The thing is that like everything else in sex, pulling hair is something that people may or may not want to do. Now, they may just say, yeah, pull my hair. That makes it easy to communicate if they communicate that clearly. Otherwise, a way to find out if they like their hair pulled is to just put a little more tension on the hair. Okay? You will probably be able to tell by their reaction, a hum, a more enthusiastic sucking, something like that. Sometimes I've seen this happen where you will hold their hair just slightly tight and they will pull forward so that you're automatically pulling their hair. But if you pull their hair and you get the opposite, then don't try again later on. That doesn't mean, hey, don't pull my hair now, but pull it later. It means they probably don't like having their hair pulled. If you're really not sure, don't do it and ask next time. Okay, ask afterwards. Hey, I had my hand in your hair. I hope that was helping. I kind of wanted to pull it, but I wasn't sure if you'd like that. They'll let you know. Okay, that kind of it's that communication and things like that. Okay, now a lot of times people will say in these how to give blowjobs, oh, isn't it horrible when the guy thrusts forward? Isn't it horrible when they're pushing into the throat? Here's the thing. It's only horrible if you're doing it with no consideration for your partner. Okay, among other things, their necks can get tired. Okay, if their necks get tired, then it's not going to be as easy. So perhaps they can hold their neck still and you can be pushing up, but be aware of how deep you're going or whatever. It is really frustrating that the only imagined idea for most blowjobs is the idea of the cock going into the mouth and out of the mouth. Just like the tongue and lips can be used in a lot of different ways, so can the cock. You can rub different parts of the cock across the lips. You can tease them. You can use it as a sensual stroking part. You can use it as a mode of dominance. You can, here's something that I enjoy with some partners, is that I will hold their hair very tightly and put them really close to my cock, but not let them quite reach it, so they're actually straining forward against it. That is a really fun game to do. It's kind of a tease and denial, although we don't usually have the denial too much, to be frank. Okay, but the idea is to give feedback, to have communication. Breathing is one way that you can do it. Just the pace of your breathing, or using noise, ah, ooh, things like that. Words, that's so fucking good, is something that we repeated a lot, and that's just fine. I tend to say, oh, fuck, a lot. One of the reasons I ask people what their favorite dirty word is at the end of this podcast is to find out what they do. You can certainly use their name, but like I always say, especially if you're, in a poly or dating multiple people, make sure you use the right name. Don't try and play it off like you said the wrong name, and you're like, oh, Sylvia, and you realize you had the wrong name, and so you try and play it off like, doesn't suck my cock anywhere near as good as you do, Fernanda. And, that just, they're not going to fall for it, okay? It's if you say the wrong name, own it. That's what happens. It's okay, because you know what? They may be thinking about someone else too, or they may even just be thinking about your cock. That is something you have to realize, is that there are some people who are like, well, I don't care if you have fun or not. I'm just going to have some quality time with your cock. That is entirely a valid way to have it. Use the right dirty talk. Now, this is something that there are entire classes on dirty talk, but a brief primer. Anything is going to sound dirtier if you say it slowly, if you say it with breathiness, and if you lower your voice to some extent, okay? That is going to sound dirty. But that's from Midori's, what's it called? Aural sex class. Aural. She's so good with words. Which is a great class, and you should definitely go to it. But also, different words can turn people on or off. For example, I don't like anyone referring to my cock as a dick. I don't enjoy that kind of that particular word. Don't like it referred to as junk. Don't like it. So if somebody says to me, "Hey, I really want to suck your dick," I am not going to say, "How dare you call it such a bad word? It is not named Richard." No. Actually, what I'll do is I will simply respond to them using the word that I like. Really? Well, I think my cock would really like to be sucked by you, or something along those lines. I use that word. So listen to the words that they use and then use those words. My partner, Naya, when we first got together, it turned out that she really didn't like the word pussy, but I, on the other hand, didn't really like the word cunt, which is the word she preferred to use to talk about her private parts. So if I'm talking about it on a podcast, are they still private parts? Anyway, so when we were, as we grew together, I learned to get used to the word cunt, which I had always sort of thought of as a derogatory way. It helped to watch the vagina monologues a few times. And as I got used to the word cunt, she also got used to the word pussy. And now we use them interchangeably, but that's after years. When you first start, try using the right dirty talk. Now, there's always the question of the money shot, so-called because that's the part that you have to have in any porn to make sure that you show that this is what the particular blowjob act was going for. Okay, and I can tell you, having shot porn, having directed porn, I was very much schooled by the porn actress when I said, "Oh, well, we don't have to show this." It was like, "Oh my God, that's like saying, well, we're playing a football game, but we don't have to score a touchdown." It just doesn't work that way. So here's the thing. You can definitely have a preference, but you also need to respect your partner's wishes. Okay, so it's best to negotiate this beforehand, or at least somewhat beforehand. When you feel that the odds of you coming is possibly going to happen, you can start by saying, oh my God, I'm getting close to coming. I would really like to come on your breasts. Okay, now what you've done, you've not said I'm going to, you've not insisted, you said I would enjoy this, or I love the idea, or I love the thought of. Put it in that way as a, here is my desire. That gives them the opportunity to, hey, maybe go, oh my God, yes, let's do that, and give you what you want. Or they can say, I'm not really into that. I would rather take you in my mouth. I'd rather do this, whatever kind of thing that may be. It gives them a chance to say it back. Now remember, boundaries are your own that you get to keep. Now you have a boundary as to what you can, especially your preference, but you don't get to, unless it's been pre-negotiated, tell your partner what you're going to do. Okay? And it's really not a good idea to totally take them by surprise. You're really playing the odds there because, hey, if they don't like something and you didn't bother negotiating it, well, they may not bother to tell you that they didn't like it, and then you're reducing your odds of a future blowjob. On the other hand, if you express a preference and they say, no, I'd rather you did this other thing, well, at that point, if you respect their boundaries, it is entirely possible that they will, at a later time, decide, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to try it the way they want to. I'm not saying that as a quid pro quo. I'm saying that from experience. I had someone who we pre-negotiated. I was not going to come in her mouth, was not going to come in her mouth, was not going to come in her mouth. And when we got to the moment of doing that, I said, I need to pull out. I'm about to come. She said, no, I think I want to do this, and decided to take me in her mouth, which she actually felt was much more intimate. But if I had insisted on that, it would not have happened. It was because I respected her boundaries that she trusted me enough to take a chance and try that out. Okay, so spend the time, phrase it in some way like I'd really like to do this thing, and then let them decide it. Now, let's switch to the other end, the person giving the blowjob. There's this whole thing about spit or swallow. Now, I can't speak for all men or all people who possess a cock. However, I can tell you that I personally would much rather not come in someone's mouth at all than to have them spit it out. And this is a pretty easy thing to picture, okay? Think about if that person, assuming you enjoy them giving oral sex to you, if that person has been giving oral sex to you, and the minute you have your wonderful glowing orgasm, oh my God, it feels so good, the first thing they do is get up and go, think about what that would do to your self-image, to your idea. This idea that it is demeaning or it is less or it is a disgusting fluid or something like that is entirely socially constructed. Okay, it's only demeaning if you want it to be. Okay, it could be equally powerful. I am taking your fluids from you, and you shall not have them anymore. You could turn it into whatever you want, but it's worthwhile. Now, you also have to not be connected to the absolute necessity for orgasm, because it doesn't always happen, especially as people get older. Sometimes it's okay just to love having that sensation. Sometimes it's just fun just to share that intimacy. Okay? That also applies to the idea of giving back. Yes, in this dream world, everybody, not only do both people have orgasms, but they both have them simultaneously, or they have it exactly the way. Guess what your job is after you receive a blowjob? Your job after you receive one is to say, what would you like? Maybe they just want to cuddle. Maybe they want to look smugly over your flaccid cock for look what I did. Maybe they want to have you suddenly go down on them. Maybe they want to wait a while until you get hard and then you can actually have penis into orifice type sex. Whatever it may be, whatever they want, maybe it's pizza and Netflix. Listen to them. Your responsibility is to ask them what they want, and that's it. So, hopefully this gave you some ideas about receiving blowjobs gracefully, and in the meantime, I'm going to bid you adieu and apologize for a long wait behind the podcast. And in the meantime, I will be here, sponsored by twistedmonk.com. Don't forget about that. Go visit his website and take a look at that lovely rope. And you go out there, and I still don't have a good tagline, do I? I want you to go out there and have some fun. And let me know what it is. You can get back to me at greatanswer@gmail.com. And in the meantime, this is Great Answer with Great Answers Podcast.